Today I'm going to show you a twist on a basic salmon recipe that looks amazing, but it's exquisitely easy. So first I'm going to start out with the sauce because it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to reduce. And I have a bottle of Merlot here. So you can really use any full-bodied red wine. And I'm adding it to a small saucepan because we want that reduction to happen, and we also want some of the alcohol to burn off because we don't want the alcohol to disrupt the flavors, the delicate flavors that you find in things like strawberry, and then also the richness of the salmon. So we'll just let that cook down. And while that's reducing, let's talk a little bit about salmon. Now, I'm sure you've heard in the news that salmon is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, but keep in mind it's only in the wild salmon. And basically, the only way to tell the difference between wild and caught is asking your fishmonger. Another potential way to figure out if the salmon could be wild is by looking at the color. Look at this deep orange hue. The omega-3 fatty acids come from what the salmon eats in the wild. So unfortunately, when it's farm-raised salmon is usually a lot lighter in color. It tends to be slightly lighter pink because they're not getting the same food sources as the wild version. So while our sauce is simmering, we're going to slice up some strawberries. And I know you might be thinking this is a really bizarre combination. But when I used to work as a recipe developer, and I've worked on quite a few books, many of the authors and companies I work with like to find unusual way to combine really healthy foods. So things like chocolate and avocado are an amazing combo, spinach and blueberry, and there are lots of ways to combine flavorful, healthy ingredients, make them interesting, but also they taste surprisingly good. So with these strawberries, I'm just slicing them up, and you know, strawberries are sort of hard to find super fresh in season, and unfortunately sometimes they look beautiful, but on the whole store-bought strawberries can be very tart. But in this case with the sauce it doesn't really matter because we have the tartness of the wine already. So don't worry if your strawberries aren't super sweet, it doesn't matter because they're going to cook inside the sauce. So while the sauce is reducing, we're going to cook off the protein. So remember, anytime you're working with a protein, something like fish, chicken, meat, and you want to sear it, you have to season it first, because it never tastes the same when you put the salt on after. I sprinkle the salt up high because that helps it cover the piece of fish more evenly. And we're going to do a lot of pepper on this salmon because I love the way the pepper tastes against the strawberries. So next we'll do a little bit of olive oil, and at this point you can always use canola if you like, but we're not going to use butter here because we're really focusing on getting more of the good fats into our diet. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're lowering things like saturated fat and trans fat, it's also really great for your body because those types of fat cause inflammation, and studies also show that it causes the release of cortisol, which is a hormone in your body that causes you to gain weight around the midsection. So we want to focus on the good fats. So we'll let that fish cook up for about 2 or 3 minutes. We want to make sure that it gets a really nice brown crust. And notice that I put it fish side down and not skin side down because we want that side to be the prettiest when it comes to the presentation. So while we're waiting for that fish to cook, we're going to take a look again at the sauce. And we can see that it's reduced quite a bit. We're going to add a little bit of sugar just to sweeten up the wine because the wine is sour and our berries are pretty tart. So what's great about making sauces at home is you can always control the amount of sugar that goes inside. So next we're going to add just a pat of butter, just 1 pat, because again we want to make sure that we're not adding too much saturated fat to this dish. But the reason why I'm putting the butter in the sauce is it's going to give that incredible richness that coats your tongue in only a way the butter can. But because it's only 1 tablespoon, we're really sharing that tablespoon between 2 people. So we're cutting way back on saturated fat versus the half a stick of butter that they traditionally put in sauces when you go to a restaurant. So our sauce is ready to go, and it's time to turn the salmon. And if you're going with a thinner fillet like I have here, you can do everything inside the skillet. But if you happen to get a thicker salmon fillet, you can always preheat the oven to 400 degrees and finish it off by baking. So So I like to make sure that the fish is cooked through, but still slightly pink in the center. Not as translucent as sushi, but still tender and moist, because there's nothing worse than dry, overcooked salmon. So we'll let this cook for another minute or so, and it'll be ready to sauce. So I think our salmon's ready to go, but I want to test it first to give it the flake test. So I'll take a fork and just press on the edge of the salmon. And if it flakes apart easily, then you know it's cooked and ready to go. So when I plate this up, I like to scoop the salmon and just remove it from the skin right in the skillet, because it makes it a lot easier to eat that way. And this looks incredibly gorgeous. This is one of those dishes that your friends are going to think you're a genius, but it's so simple to whip together. And you just garnish with the strawberries. Now, if you want to do a wine pairing with this, you can go for a pink Prosecco. Pink champagne would be incredible. You could do a lighter red, something like a Pinot Noir. And if you have a little bit of Merlot left over, you could drink that too. So now you have a colorful way to get your omega-3s that's also dinner party worthy. I'm Jennifer Iserloh. Here's to your health. I really like the comments, but I would love to get a video response. And if I use it, I'll send you a copy of my book.